All right.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching I Will Make You Mine. My name is Celine. I'm the associate programmer for the Narrative Features program at Band Film. And I'm here with Lin Chen, who's the writer, director, and actress, one of the actresses in the film. Hi, Lin. Thank you.
Hi. So
Thanks
nice
for doing this.
virtually. Although
Yeah.
I have to say, I have many cousins in Bend, and I wish I was there. It's so lovely there.
Oh, that's such a shame. We couldn't do this in person.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is what we have this year.
Another year.
I know, with its own challenges. So tell me about how this project started, because I see that this is the third of a trilogy. Is that right?
Yes, this movie is the third movie in a trilogy, and it was started by Dave Boyle, who wrote and directed it, starring Go Nakamura, a musician playing a version of himself. So a very male-centered trilogy to begin with. And I played a love interest in the first two movies, along with Ye Ming Chen and Naoko Fujitani. And in the third movie, basically it happened because I was hiking with Dave a few years ago and asked him when he was going to make the third movie, because he always joked that it would be the lowest budget trilogy ever made. And the first two movies kind of ended on a cliffhanger ending. So I wanted to find out who Go Nakamura ended up with, since the first two movies kind of revolved around his love life, and like it was a mystery who he was with. So when Dave told me he did not want to make the third movie, I asked if I could take a crack at it, and he told me he would help me. And I don't know if he thought I was serious. I knew he meant it, but I think like he was just like, she's not gonna do this. And little did he know, it lit a fire under me. And so I ended up writing my first feature film script, and I wrote it in a week. And I took the female characters from the first two movies, and I told the story from their perspective. So I sort of flipped the narrative, and told it. I made Go the love interest this time, and that's how it started.
So this was always meant to be a trilogy, but there wasn't like a fixed story ideas for each. So you got to get like full reign on this thing.
Yeah, I mean, since Dave and Go decided not to finish it, I was like, well, I'm just going to use my imagination then. Because I'm sure if they had done it, it would have still focused on Go.
Yeah.
It would have been from his perspective. And I don't know if it would have been quite as much of this tale of aging. That just naturally came up because, we had all gotten older. 7 years had passed. And for me, I just can't think of like my past without just thinking about all my hopes and my dreams from my past and what that means for me today. So I kind of used it as like a form of therapy for myself in dealing with all of the issues that I go through. But I think a huge part of why the story ended up getting told the way that it did was because I was just curious about how these women were when they weren't around Go. In the first two movies, they were these side characters, and they would show up and say really smart, cool things, and then they would disappear. And even as I was playing these parts, I was like, who is she? Who are these women? What do they do? Like, what do they think? How do they really think? Because they seem to have it together. And I don't feel that way as an aging woman. I don't feel like I have everything figured out. So I just imagine what it would be like to see my ex-boyfriend after all these years, and what that would feel like. And so that's why the movie was written in a week. It happened pretty organically and pretty naturally.
So when I started watching your film, it has an immediately hypnotic thing about it. Like you get drawn into the characters feel really sincere. So it's very heartwarming film. What is it? What is it about these characters that make them so relatable and likable from your point of view as a writer director? And also, if you hadn't written and directed it, and this came to you as a script, as an actress, what would be the appealing points about these characters for you?
I mean, I love that. Thank you for saying that. I love these characters. I mean, and you know, I was just talking about this with someone where they were like, your movie has no bad guy, you know, like there's no one evilly plotting anything. It's just people who are really just trying for their own thing. And even though these three women all want the same man, it's not like they're, you know, knocking one another over to get to him. It's just everyone's on their regular path, and they just happen to want the same thing, which is this man from their past. And I think maybe it's relatable because it's pretty realistic. I think everyone, like a Spice Girl, can relate to one of these women. Are you the person who sort of looks at it, like has reached this age and is sort of like, oh my God, this is it? This is what like growing up is? Because it doesn't feel that great. Or are you the person who's like, I feel so left behind. Everyone around my age has got it figured out, and I feel like so far away. Or are you the person who's just like, I'm tired, I can't handle this? And I think, you know, it's like there's someone for everyone to relate to.
I think now I know why I found the character so relatable, because I haven't figured, I don't find like I've figured anything out. Have you lost the voice? Is everything okay? The audio? Because you were a little choppy in your last, but no, it's okay. So I'm going to ask you a little about how challenging you might have found the multi-storyline, multi-character narrative, and whether you found that difficult. I, as a screenwriter, am drawn to multi-stories and multi-characters, but it's really hard to find like who to focus on and when, and creating that balance between the characters. What was that like for you?
Yes, in writing it, it wasn't as challenging as when we edited it. Because I think once, you know, everyone's story was pretty distinct. There wasn't a ton of overlap. But I think once we started editing it, we could see like, we have 4 main characters, and it's been 20 minutes and we haven't even met like the 2 of the characters. Like, this is not okay. So we had to figure out how to do that in editing without, you know, disrupting people or just like chopping things up. So that's why the first scene is a flashback sequence. Actually, from the very first movie, we went and synced footage from 2011 and just made sort of like a music video so that you could meet some of these characters all at once, so that when they showed up, you weren't like, who's this person? I'm very invested in Rachel. What are these other people doing here? So that was a challenging part for me. But otherwise, I think because, like I said, there's very little interacting of the 3 women, aside from just a handful of scenes, there wasn't too much to worry about in terms of like keeping everything separate.
So did you decide in the editing when you would cut from one story to the other, or was that already in the script?
Some of it was in the script, but definitely there were scenes that we definitely manipulated and moved around, just based on testing and what wasn't clear to people, and also just what was serving the story better, what was driving it. It was interesting because my husband actually edited it, and he is a full-time editor during the day. So that was testing for our relationship, our 22-year marriage of him coming home and me being like, ready to stare at a screen again for another few hours. But I think that the reason why the storytelling it felt pretty seamless between all of them was because I was kind of relentless sitting next to him of trying every possible thing, because he was my husband and I could make him do that, you know, like even if he was like, I really don't think this will work, I would say, well, just show me. Like, and then, you know, 2 hours would pass and it didn't work. And he'd be like, I could have told you that. And I was like, but I just needed to see it for myself. And sometimes he'd be right. And sometimes I would be right. And because of that, I kept trying every possible iteration. And so it took some time, but I think because of that, that's why it was pretty tight and pretty seamless. Like the scenes tend to flow into one another pretty well.
Wow, it's a miracle you guys are still together.
Yes, it is.
Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
So it's my mandatory question when we get a black and white film. I'd like to ask you, what was the reasoning behind choosing black and white as an aesthetic for this film? Why do you think it works?
So the first two movies were filmed in black and white. And the reason for that was because Dave really wanted to make a movie that moved quickly in terms of production. He didn't want to sit and wait for lights. He wanted the camera that they ended up borrowing. Like it wasn't the greatest camera. So they thought it would be much more romantic, I guess, to make it in black and white. And so because the first two already had that aesthetic, I had a conversation with my DP. I had two DPs and one of them had shot the first two movies. And he and I had a long conversation about shooting it in color, because since this was the female perspective, we could definitely shoot it in color. Nobody would question it. And we wanted it to be a standalone film. But at the same time, I really wanted it to be tied to the first two movies. And there was also a part of me that felt like, when else am I going to shoot a black and white movie? Like, when else am I going to have this excuse? Like, if it turns out like horrible or pretentious or anything, then I can just be like, it's because of Dave. It's Dave's fault. So I said, let's go for it. But also one of the reasons why it ended up working out so well was because our DP, who I mentioned, we had two of them. One of them, he is a professor now in Utah. And so in order for him to be able to sort of like come and work with us, he had to be able to learn a new skill. And so his new skill was working on the red monochrome camera, which there are only a few of. It was like made for David Fincher, and like it was hard to get this camera, and he had to have like some sort of something, you know, like some sort of reason for like not teaching, so that he could go and learn a new skill. So that was the skill. And, you know, once you go monochrome, like you cannot go back. But it's really interesting to see the evolution of the movies. Really, each one gets better and better looking. And I think even though Dave Boyle, who the director of the first two, who also produced this movie, almost had a heart attack when we told him what camera we wanted to shoot on, just budget wise, he was just like, remember, low budget. But still, I just think like the natural progression of the cameras from first movie to now goes along with the theme of aging and maturing.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. There are so many reasons tied together for why to make it black and white. It's very interesting. So you're a first-time director. You haven't made shorts either before this.
No.
So what's the transition like from having an acting career into making a feature?
You know, I feel very lucky that I had such a family. It really felt like a reunion in a lot of ways, almost like I grew up making movies with these people, with this same team, with the same cast, with the same crew. And so it was like my turn to cook. It's like going on vacation and they're like, here's where the pots and the ingredients are, don't poison us, you know? But everyone was really, really, really supportive. And because it was 3 different characters and 3 different storylines, we filmed my scenes just schedule wise. It worked out that way. So we shot all of my stuff the first week. So for me, I'm just so comfortable being on set in front of the camera. It was almost like I wasn't fully like feeling the pressure of being a director, even though I was making decisions. I was still sitting in hair and makeup for an hour every day. I was still like trying to keep my costume clean. I was still trying to like, keep the day moving, but not, I feel like I felt that energy shift the second I got, behind the camera, week 2. And then I was like, thank God I got my stuff out of the way, because I do not want to get in front of that camera again. I just want to be here manipulating everything and like telling everyone what to do. There's also the piece of it where once I like was fully invested behind the camera, I wanted to have my hands in everything. I wanted to be the first to arrive and last to leave. And I did not, you can't do that when you're an actor. You need your energy. And so like, I just knew like for myself, like if I had to do an emotional scene the next day, it is not good for me to stand there waiting for G&E to finish, like an extra, like just shooting the shit, like waiting, for them to like finish every single thing and then lock up. So I couldn't do that as an actor. And I wanted to be able to do that as a director. But it was pretty seamless. But I think that that's because I had like people really like holding and cradling me, and I was free to be able to mess up. I never felt that pressure like, oh no, they're not going to respect me if I don't understand what's happening. Because we had worked together already. I already knew that we respected one another. So if I didn't understand something, I could just ask. And also I just trusted everybody. Everybody on our crew and our cast was handpicked by me and by, people I trust. So it wasn't like walking into a situation where I felt like I felt imposter syndrome or anything. Like if anything, I felt like I could just be completely honest about where I was at. And I think because of that, it was really special.
So since there are 2 films before this one, did that make your life easier to raise funding and get the show on the road, or?
I think so. I think there were, we kickstarted half of our budget, and definitely there were a lot of people who were fans of the first 2 movies who were really excited about it. But I'm sorry if you can hear my dog snoring in the background. But for the most part, a lot of people hopped on board who had never heard of the first 2. And then what was great was, in the year that we were editing it, people just watched the first 2 movies to get excited because they knew it was coming out.
Nice. That's really nice. Did you have any screenings, public screenings, or before COVID hit?
No, sadly. So we were supposed to premiere at South by Southwest, and that was just so heartbreaking because the first 2 movies premiered there, and in 2011 and 2012. And it's like, it's such a great festival, and it's music oriented. And we had already sold the film before. So I was just really going to go and enjoy myself. But unfortunately, there hasn't been the opportunity to. But I know that once everyone's allowed in theaters again, I'm just going to rent out a theater and invite everyone I know and have like the biggest party. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, it's such a shame. But you do have a distributor.
Yes. Gravitas has distributed our movie video on demand and DVD.
So if the audience members want to recommend this film and also the previous 2 films, where could they find you? Where could they find this film and the others?
They're available everywhere on iTunes, Amazon Prime. I think the first 2 are only available on iTunes and Amazon, but I Will Make You Mine is available everywhere, including like your local library, on cable on demand. It's on Blu-ray. It's everywhere.
That's great. And what's next for you? You mentioned that you only want to be directing from now on. Is that true? Are you really going to do that, or is this the end of your acting career?
It's definitely not the end of my acting career. I did 4 movies that just last year. Actually, I feel like directing helped me change my relationship with acting to a much more healthy one. because now I really understand the filmmaker's, you know, quest of telling a story, and whatever I can do to ease or help that vision, I'm very eager to do now. And I just think that helps everybody, you know. And I'm definitely still acting. It's my bread and butter. It's how I make my living, and I still love it. But I think, you know, I've been working on, I actually, right before this, I was in a writing session with a new writing partner I have, and we're working on a TV series right now. And I'm attached to direct a pilot for someone else. And I have so many ideas swimming in my head for when the time is right. But in the meantime, I think, you know, like everyone else, we're just trying to take this quarantine period day by day. It's some days you feel like, you know, ready to be creative, and some days you're just like, not happening. And so I just honor that each and every day. But yeah, I did like my first socially distant film set the other day, and I'm supposed to film something in November. So we'll see what ends up happening. But you know, it's a strange time, but I'm very much not of the mindset where I feel in a rush to create just to create. I think because this movie was such a gift, and I never expected to become a filmmaker, and I just happened to fall in love with it. I'm not in a rush to just, you know, sell something or make something and make it like COVID friendly and like figure out how to do that. I'm still very much in my like dream phase of like, yes, and there'll be 300 extras and a helicopter scene. And like, I'm still like in that place where I know it's not gonna happen, but still like, let me dream right now. It's fine. Like nobody, if I have nobody telling me no right now, then I'm not going to stop myself.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's a great attitude. Thank you so much for doing this. I wish you the best of luck with I Will Make You Mine and your next projects, TV projects, and everything else you might think up. We love this film. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you
thank
so much.
you to Ben Film audience for sticking around, and enjoy the rest of the festival. Bye.
Bye.